Hey everyone, welcome to the Deep Dive. We're diving deep into the world of India's freedom fighters today.
Ooh, exciting.
This one is really for anyone, whether you're gearing up for the UPSC GS1 Modern Indian History
Oh, yeah.
or just fascinated by this huge chapter in India's story.
Definitely.
And while you're here, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell.
So you don't miss out on more deep dives.
Ready to unlock some historical secrets? Let's get into it.
Let's go. You know, it's amazing when you think about the Indian national movement.
Yeah.
It wasn't some, single unified thing.
Oh,
It was
right.
massive, this tapestry of people from all over.
Students, farmers, lawyers.
Everyone all united, wanting freedom.
But they didn't always agree on how to get there.
That's what's so interesting about it. It wasn't just about marching in the streets.
Although there was that too.
Oh, definitely. But we're talking peaceful protests inspired by Gandhi, then bam, acts of revolution.
And intellectuals battling it out with economic arguments.
People went to prison, brutal crackdowns, and so many, tragically, gave their lives.
Incredible sacrifice, incredible resilience.
Decades of struggle against the British Empire,
To really get it, we need to understand the people behind the movement.
each with their own reasons, their own methods.
Okay, let's hear some of their stories. First up, Veer Savarkar.
Interesting choice. His ideology went through quite a few changes.
What happened there?
His story shows how complex someone's beliefs can be, especially back then.
Right.
Early on, he was actually inspired by Italian nationalism, like Garibaldi.
Unification of Italy.
Yes, and even believed in a composite Indian nationalism, Hindus and Muslims together.
Interesting.
But as things went on, his focus shifted.
And he became a champion of Hindu nationalism.
Exactly.
So it's like he was figuring out what it meant to be Indian in that time.
Yeah, and he wasn't just thinking about it, he formed the Mitra Mela,
Right, which became the Abhinav Bharat Society.
both promoting nationalist ideas.
He wasn't afraid to shake things up either.
Oh no, he challenged everything, questioned religious scriptures. They're man-made, not perfect. He even criticized the caste system.
Wow.
Saw it as a barrier to Hindu unity, bold moves for that time.
Shaking things up on all fronts.
Yeah.
And of course, his influential works, The Indian War of Independence, 1857.
And Hindutva really cemented him as a leader in Hindu nationalism.
So influential.
Really?
Now, let's move on to Chandrasekhar Azad.
Oh, Azad, a legend for his revolutionary acts.
Total opposite approach, right?
Azad's story is all about courage and dedication.
Yeah.
Even as a young man, he was drawn to radical action, but get this.
Okay.
He was initially inspired by Gandhi's non-cooperation movement.
It's hard to imagine, right?
Young Azad, boycotting goods, peaceful protests.
So different from his later actions.
Right, but it just shows how far Gandhi's message reached.
Even to those who chose a different path.
Exactly. And for Azad, the turning point was the Kakori train robbery.
A daring heist.
It solidified his revolutionary cred.
Led him straight into the HSRA,
The Hindustan Socialist Republican Association.
where he became the commander-in-chief.
Think about that. Under the name Balraj.
He starts these incredible moves, assassination of John Saunders, even a plan to blow up the Viceroy's train.
Fearless.
Sadly, his life was cut short at Alfred Park. Confrontation with the police.
His sacrifice, his commitment, though, still inspires today.
A symbol of resistance against oppression.
He truly is.
His story reminds us of the risks these freedom fighters took.
Putting their lives on the line.
It wasn't just talk, it was action.
Absolutely.
Now, another fearless revolutionary,
Yeah.
Bhagat Singh, brought socialist ideas to the movement.
Bhagat Singh's story, it shows how powerful ideas can be.
Yeah.
His family was politically active, so it started early.
Right?
He even formed the Naujawan Bharat Sabha to energize the youth, focus them on independence.
Not just speeches, though. He joined the Hindustan Republican Association.
Right into the action.
And then that pivotal moment, the plot to avenge Lala Lajpat Rai's death, the assembly bombing.
Throwing bombs in the assembly, shouting Inquilab Zindabad. What a statement.
Captured everyone's imagination.
Especially the youth.
Even in prison, he kept writing.
Laying out his vision of a socialist India, essays like Why I Am an Atheist and The Jail Notebook.
His vision was radical. A society without exploitation, everyone with equal rights, no matter who they are.
Tragically, it ended way too soon, hanged by the British with Rajguru and Sukhdev.
But his ideas, his writings, they lived on, inspiring so many.
He really did.
His story is about ideas transcending even the worst oppression.
Powerful.
Okay, next up, Dadabhai Naoroji brought an economic lens to the fight.
Fascinating figure. Not just a freedom fighter, a brilliant economist. exposed how British colonialism was draining India's wealth.
Grand old man of India.
They called him that for a reason.
And first Indian to achieve so much, first Indian professor at Elphinstone College.
Teaching math and natural philosophy.
And then, get this, first Indian elected to the British House of Commons.
Wow.
Imagine an Indian voice in the heart of British Parliament.
Groundbreaking. And his economic drain theory changed everything.
Explain that one.
He explained how India's resources were going straight to Britain, leaving India poor.
So it wasn't just about political freedom, it was about economic freedom, too.
Exactly. His book, Poverty and Un-British Rule in India, had a huge impact.
He also helped start the Indian National Congress.
The organization that ultimately led India to independence.
A true visionary.
Linking economics and politics.
Now we can't forget Mahatma Gandhi.
Oh, absolutely not.
His story is amazing, from a lawyer in South Africa to a global symbol of peace and resistance.
Gandhi's influence? Immense, both in India and globally.
He introduced Swaraj, self-rule, and satyagraha.
Nonviolent resistance.
Not just strategies, philosophies for life.
Truth, self-reliance, moral strength.
Incredible how he mobilized millions of Indians peacefully.
The Champaran Satyagraha, the Ahmedabad Mill Strike, the Quetta Satyagraha.
All successful peaceful resistance against the British Empire.
It's amazing.
And then the Dandi Salt March.
Gandhi walking to the sea making salt.
Defying the British salt tax. A nationwide movement.
Hard to believe something so simple had such a huge impact.
Gandhi understood symbolism, tapping into anger against unjust laws.
Under his leadership, the Indian National Congress adopted Purna Swaraj.
Complete independence as the goal.
His writings became essential reading. The Story of My Experiments with Truth, Hind Swaraj.
He didn't just write books, though. He edited newspapers, too. India Opinion, Young India, Harijan, Navjivan, spreading his message everywhere.
His influence went beyond borders, inspiring peace and justice movements all over the world.
What a legacy.
Spiritual leader, political strategist, social reformer, all in one.
Now let's talk about Subhas Chandra Bose.
Oh, known for his boldness and challenging conventions.
He quit the Indian civil service to fight for freedom.
Such a huge decision.
Shows how dedicated he was.
For sure.
Early on, he was in the non-cooperation movement, even edited the newspaper Forward.
Right.
But over time, his views changed. He wanted a more militant nationalism.
He felt nonviolence might not be enough against the British.
Leading to conflict with Gandhi.
Who believed in nonviolence completely.
It must have been hard for Bose to break away.
It was.
But he became Congress president in 1938, even though he left the party later.
He formed his own organization, the Forward Bloc.
During World War II, he made a bold move, sought support from the Axis powers, Germany, Italy, Japan.
To help gain India's independence.
Controversial, but he was determined.
He wanted to try everything to get freedom.
This led to the Azad Hind government and the Indian National Army.
The INA.
With Bose leading, they launched a campaign in Southeast Asia.
Aiming to free India from British control.
They had setbacks, but his determination had a lasting impact.
His actions are still debated today, but his belief in India's destiny, his courage, are undeniable.
Next, Jawaharlal Nehru.
A giant in Indian history.
Not just in the fight for independence, but shaping India as its first prime minister.
Nehru's journey is fascinating. Studied in England, came back to India, dove right into the freedom struggle.
He organized the first Kisan March.
Highlighting the struggles of farmers.
And got imprisoned during the non-cooperation movement.
A common experience for freedom fighters back then.
Shows how deep British control was.
Even peaceful protests were punished.
But Nehru kept going, deeply involved in the Indian National Congress, shaping its direction.
A strong voice for complete independence.
He helped write the Nehru Report, a vision for self-governing India.
He also co-founded the Independence for India League with Srinivasa Iyengar and, get this, Subhas Chandra Bose.
Imagine those three working together.
They pushed for a complete break from Britain.
It was under Nehru's leadership at the Lahore section of the INC that Purna Swaraj.
Complete independence became the party's goal.
He was imprisoned many times, including during the Salt Satyagraha.
And while in jail, he wrote his famous autobiography.
After independence, he led a new nation as India's first prime minister for 17 years.
Wow.
He built the foundation of modern India, emphasizing unity, secularism, scientific progress.
Values that are still important in India today.
He saw an India where everyone could live together
and thrive.
His writings, like The Discovery of India and Letters from a Father to His Daughter, show his understanding of history, culture, and India's challenges.
He truly shaped modern India. His influence is everywhere.
Finally, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel.
An Iron Man in India.
Patel's story is different. Even before the freedom movement, he was a leader, handling crises like the plague and famine in Ahmedabad.
A practical leader, great organizer, brought people together.
Qualities that helped him in the Satyagraha movements.
He was vital in the Kheda Satyagraha, uniting communities against unfair taxes.
And then the Nagpur flag Satyagraha, fighting for the right to honor the Indian flag.
A strong symbol against British rule.
He knew how to use symbols to energize people.
And the Bardoli Satyagraha, he led a tax revolt, earning him the title Sardar.
Meaning chief or leader.
That's right.
A brilliant strategist. He knew how to mobilize people and challenge the British.
He did.
But maybe his biggest role was after independence, integrating the princely states into the new India.
That was huge. Patel's leadership was key in unifying the country, creating its borders.
He shaped the map of India as we know it.
He did.
It's amazing how each freedom fighter had such different backgrounds, talents, and approaches to independence.
Yes.
They all faced challenges, made tough choices, and sacrificed so much.
They did.
Their stories show us that history is about real people who shaped the world.
Absolutely.
It's not just dates and events, it's about lives.
Exactly.
We'll be back soon with part 2, where we'll explore the impact of these freedom fighters and some key themes from their stories.
Looking forward to it. Welcome back to our deep dive exploring the lives and legacies of these amazing freedom fighters in India.
Part 1 was amazing.
We covered a lot, from Savarkar's Hindutva to Gandhi's nonviolence.
It really shows how diverse the Indian independence movement was.
So many paths, personalities, all wanting freedom for India.
And it wasn't just words and protests. These people made real sacrifices.
Imprisonment, hardship, some even gave their lives.
Makes you think about the courage it took to stand up to that.
It does, and for those preparing for the UPSC, it's so important.
Yeah.
To go beyond just names and dates, understand their ideologies, their choices.
How they shaped the India we know today.
Exactly.
Knowing this stuff is key for GS1 Modern Indian History.
Absolutely.
But even if you're not taking the UPSC, understanding these figures is understanding India itself.
Their legacies are everywhere, woven into the country.
So let's unpack those legacies, starting with Savarkar.
His ideas about Hindutva, definitely controversial, but they've had a huge impact.
On Indian politics and society.
A complex legacy, for sure.
And then there's Nehru's vision of a secular democratic India, the foundation for our constitution.
The institutions we have today, all from the same struggle for freedom.
Amazing.
And globally, Gandhi's nonviolence satyagraha, it wasn't just a tactic.
But way of thought.
Inspiring activists all over the world.
Gandhi's message really went beyond borders.
It did.
And we can't forget Gandhi Nauroji, his economic drain theory.
Groundbreaking. Exposed British exploitation, emphasized economic self-reliance.
Which became so important for India after independence.
Nauroji's critique of colonialism, it was influential everywhere.
It shifted the focus from just political freedom to economic justice as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about their different ideologies, approaches, but what strikes me is their resilience.
Unbelievable. Facing the British Empire with just their belief and willpower.
It's incredible.
They never gave up, even facing prison, censorship, brutality.
Something we can all learn from, right?
Absolutely. Facing challenges, working for change. We can draw inspiration from them.
It makes you wonder what they'd think of India today.
Would they be proud of our progress? Or disappointed by the challenges?
Good question.
A question historians and commentators are still debating.
Right.
India has come so far since 1947, a vibrant democracy, economic growth, a global power.
But we still have poverty, inequality, tensions.
The issues they fought against.
It's a reminder that the fight for a just society never really ends.
Their legacies aren't just monuments, they're living ideas evolving with India.
It's up to us to carry that torch of freedom, build the society they dreamed of.
For sure.
One thing I keep thinking about is the different paths they chose.
Some, like Gandhi, nonviolence. Others, like Azad and Bhagat Singh, armed revolution.
Was one more effective than the other?
A tough question. Historians have debated it for years.
Right.
Hard to say definitively which was better.
I guess I'm wondering if those different approaches helped each other or divided the movement.
Keeping unity with so many different beliefs must have been difficult.
It must have.
It was a delicate balance with tensions and disagreements.
So did they work together?
Ultimately, I think that diversity was a strength.
How so?
Think about it. Gandhi's nonviolence put moral pressure on the British, got the world's attention,
Right.
but those movements sometimes led to violence they couldn't control.
And groups like Azad's HSRA or Bose Forward Bloc Ready to Fight, they had their own issues, resources, organization, public support.
Exactly.
So they all played a part, even with disagreements.
It was the combined pressure, moral force of nonviolence, threat of armed resistance, the arguments for self-rule that brought independence.
Like pieces of a puzzle.
A great analogy, history isn't always neat and tidy. It's messy, complex, full of contradictions.
But by understanding those complexities, we understand how we got here.
Exactly.
As we go into part 3, it's time to reflect on what this means for us as individuals and as citizens.
What lessons from these freedom fighters can we use today? How do their principles apply to the 21st century?
Big questions.
We all have to answer them for ourselves, but we can learn from their courage, resilience, their belief in a better future.
They show us that change is possible, even when things seem impossible.
They do.
Stay tuned for part 3. We'll explore those questions and how their legacies still shape India today. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. As we wrap up, what are your thoughts? Anything resonating with you?
You know, after all these stories, anything stand out? Any lessons or questions coming up for you?
We've gone through so much. Savarkar's Hindutva, Nehru's vision of a secular India.
The bravery of Azad and Bhagat Singh, Gandhi's nonviolence.
All these individuals who fought for India's freedom.
Shaping the nation we know today.
But it's been 77 years since independence. Making you wonder, how relevant are their actions and ideas now?
In contemporary India, are their visions happening? Are their struggles still meaningful with today's challenges?
Such important questions.
That's what studying history is all about, especially for the UPSC.
Right.
It's not just memorizing, it's using the past to understand now and build the future.
There's no easy answer.
But by looking at these freedom fighters, their wins, their contradictions, their impact, we can start to understand India's journey.
It's like we're following in their footsteps.
Trying to make sense of the world they created with all its possibilities.
One of the biggest takeaways is that history isn't static, it's not over.
It's a conversation, always changing, reinterpreting.
The legacies of these freedom fighters aren't fixed. They're always being looked at again with fresh eyes.
As new things happen, new challenges come up.
So as we finish this deep dive, we have to keep asking these questions.
Critically look at the past.
Find ways to connect it to today's issues.
Fighting for justice, equality, protecting our environment.
The spirit of these freedom fighters can inspire us.
Absolutely. They show us that change is possible, even when it seems impossible.
No matter how big the challenge, one person can make a difference.
Their stories prove that. Courage, conviction, standing up for what's right.
I agree. So as we say goodbye, let's carry their spirit with us.
Have thoughtful discussions. Take action for a better world.
Thank you for joining us on this journey.
We hope you learned something new, got inspired by India's history.
And if you enjoyed it, share it with your friends, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our future deep dives.
See you next time.
Keep exploring, keep learning,